Most entrepreneurs online feel overwhelmed with the amount of work they put themselves through. They need to worry about marketing, sales, operations, customer success, admin work, follow ups, and everything in between. And as a result, you kind of feel anxious about each day. You stress over things that you shouldn't even need to be stressed about. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through what I do personally to stay focused and dramatically reduce overwhelm in my work so that you can too. The step one is to filter consumption, right? I'm going to zoom in a little bit real quick here. So let's talk about consumption real quick. So, the root of anxiety, overwhelm, depression, so many negative things that enter our lives comes from the way we think, our thoughts. So if the first part of your day consists of consuming social media, news, television, and everything else the world throws at you, you're filling your mind with thoughts that will hinder you rather than help you grow. And there's part of a verse in Romans 12:2 in the Bible that says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." So we're living in the world that people are telling you what to do and telling you what's not to do, and they're spreading misinformation, spreading sometimes good information, but with good intent. But it's definitely not the time to be consuming. And in this day and age, in the 21st century, information spreads at the speed of light thanks to the internet and all that. And while that can be a blessing, it could also be a curse. So we need to actually filter our consumption to actually deciding like what we're actually consuming. For example, I had a really tough time with addictions to video games, doom scrolling, and even pornography. I'll go that deep, and that ruined my life. It ruined my life dramatically, and I couldn't stop consuming these things. So I needed to change the way I thought, and I needed to transform and renew my mind. If we consume bad things, then we're gonna end up producing bad things as a result. What we think eventually what we become. We need to keep in mind what we truly consume. And if we're always consuming things, we're going to be even more overwhelmed with the task at hand, so that when we have things to do in our work, we're already thinking about like other thoughts that shouldn't even be needing to be thought about. So filter consumption, that's the biggest step. Step two is to solve one problem at a time. So the human condition is that problems are inevitable, and they will always exist until we all take our last breath. We need to understand that problems are always going to exist within us. So we need to stop seeing problems as a problem and actually try to solve the problems that happen. So the most important thing is to solve one problem at a time, and the one that takes up most of your mental real estate, and the problem that you've probably been avoiding the most. Remember, like when I talked about filtering consumption. If your problem is consuming so much information, maybe you shouldn't be consuming that much information. Start to filter it out so that you can start solving better problems and start taking so much of that mental real estate from one big aspect to another. If we're consistently sticking with one problem that's been taking up so much of our headspace, it's going to eat at us. So we need to identify the one problem that, if solved, will alleviate the majority of your life's issues. So for me, most of my mental real estate is involving business related problems. So I need to identify the constraints in my business to solve for it. There are going to be there have been times where I couldn't even make any sales at all. So what is the problem that I needed to solve to actually make sales? Do I need to market more? Do I need to promote myself more? Yes. Do I need to actually let people know I exist? Yes. If I'm not solving these problems, if I'm trying to solve future problems by not solving today's problems, then how am I ever going to really progress and see the fruits of my labor, the fruits of my works, if I'm not doing the right priority? So I need to actively solve for that constraint in the business. And of course, people are going to have different constraints in their own businesses and their own work. So wherever you're at, if you have clients to serve, or if you have customers to already serve, probably I'd imagine your biggest constraint is delivering for those clients and those customers. That takes up probably hours of your day. So if you're trying to solve for so many other things that are not pertaining to helping your customers or clients, if you're in that stage, then maybe you need to reallocate some of your time into solving more of those problems for the business. This is definitely different for everyone else. So of course, it's not just business. So many things that take up our mental real estate are can be outside of the business. It could be in our relationships. It could be in our health, in your spiritual life. So if it's in health, if that's a big thing for you, if you need to lose weight, if you need to like take care of your mental health, if you're losing sleep, anything regarding those, then trying to find this that one problem that if solved can solve a lot of the other less problems. So we want to be able to identify that. And step three is to write things down. Write down your tasks. And this is keeping in mind your biggest problem that you need to solve in your life and working around that. So the importance of writing is to make sure you don't forget what's important to you. Because if we're not writing things down, we're not actually prioritizing what matters to us. So I could be writing literally anything down if I wanted to, but I already know I need to take care of the dishes. I already know I need to cook breakfast. I already know I need to brush my teeth. Those aren't really problems that I see. It's just a natural part of life. So you need to find the real problems that you know you need to solve within the tasks that you know you need to take care of and write those down. The things that might be obvious, but also the things that you know that's kind of difficult for you to do, and actually just write those down so you can remember it, because we need to actually keep in mind the problems that we want to solve. So a pro tip here that I do like to suggest is to actually plan your day the night before by like using a journal or an open notebook to easily see your tasks. And for purposes like for demonstration purposes, I use an open notebook like this one where I jot down my time and my task. So I have two columns where I have a time and a task. So this drastically reduces the decision fatigue when you wake up the next morning. And if you try to plan your day the morning of, then you might have to then that alone is a decision to make to like to plan out your day. You want to be able to reduce as much decision fatigue as possible. By the time you wake up in the next morning, you know exactly what you need to take care of. So, like I said, write out the time block and the task that works for you. You can keep it simple. If you already have something that works for you, stick with it. But I like to keep it simple as possible. And there's nothing more simple than a pen and paper. Literally, I don't need so many tools. This. I don't need so many app trackers and things like that. And while they're great, if you're so overwhelmed and trying to find the tools, like the best tool in the market, and I'm going to get to the next step that talks about that in a minute. We need to just simplify things and being able to plan from the time you plan to wake up to basically when you sleep. So for basically this morning, I plan to wake up at 5:30, do a wake up, and then do some Bible study. I always like to take time to read the Word, not just because I have to, because I get to. It's because I want to. I want to be able to develop my relationship with the Lord. So and you might say it's like it shouldn't be on your to-do list if it's on your relationship, and I do agree. I definitely don't need to put it on my to-do list because I do love to read the Word. But I digress. Um, so that was my morning. That's basically my morning routine. From 6:30 to 7, I do my writing, so my deep work a little bit for about 30 minutes, and from 7 to 8:30, I go to the gym. I worked out with my brother, and then from 8:30 to 9, I do some follow-ups for people that I've reached out to, DM'd, people who I just need to respond to. So I've already done quite a bit of my deep work at this point in time in the morning. So I do follow ups, I create posts, some content, and then by 10, I eat my breakfast. 10 to 11, I usually like to keep an hour for breakfast and um, time with myself, and so on. So that's going to look completely different to you. You have your own schedule, and if you have your own structure throughout your day. So, like if you're already working a 9 to 5, you already know what your work schedule might look like. But if there's anything else surrounding the day, if you need to know like what time you need to wake up and like actually keep yourself accountable by writing things down, it's always a great way to do it. So we're gonna go to step four is by using the minimum. So, like I said, people can overwhelm themselves with trying to find so many tools and try to find a tech stack that's the absolute best in the market, things like that. But you don't really need all that. You don't need it. Like if you find something that works for you, great, stick with it. You don't need to find the next best thing, right? Stick what has worked for you and it will continue to work for you for years to come. I almost promise you that. Unless something fundamental changes within the tool or something like that. But otherwise, find the few tools that provide the biggest results. You might have heard the Pareto principle of the 80-20 rule, right? S- Find the few tools that provide the biggest results. So my main tech stack to reduce this overwhelm is that I use a writing app called Cortex. Um, it's no longer being updated, so I wouldn't suggest Cortex nowadays. But is what I use to generate like to organize my ideas, um, write content, do my deep writing work, things like that. So that's what I've been using for the past year, year and a half or so now, ever since it released. But like I said, I wouldn't suggest it now. It's just something I use. Um, so the other one is school. So this is everything that involves my business. So I have a school community, and you can check that out if you want. But I'll probably include it in the description if you want to check it out. It's Mental Momentum helping. It's specific for veterans and first responder, business owners and entrepreneurs who are looking to get their first client in 90 days. So that's a bit specific to that, but school for me is basically the hub of everything for my business. So I host my courses there, my material there. I do my networking there. I join other communities. I do my uh, I make my posts there, make my content in there outside of YouTube. I network with people in the DMs. I hop on calls from school, and it's just a nice ecosystem to run community based businesses. So that's mine. Um, and if you want to have more curiosity behind that, feel free to check out school. I'll provide a link in the description below if you're looking to start your own community based online business. Um, but Google Tools, well, we're moving on. Google Tools, so Google Calendar, Google Mail, Google Drive, Google Docs, even Google Sheets. I just I use all the those Google tools. They absolutely work for me. And obviously, as you're watching this YouTube video, I'm literally reading things off from this Google Doc right here. So it works. People, I know people like it. It has worked for just for content purposes. So I like to use. I like it because it's simple. For me, to do booking calendars for booking calls, sales calls, networking calls, discovery calls, anything regarding calls. I use TidyCal. That's my tech for that. You can use Calendly if you use it for use any booking software or anything that's intended to book calls with people. You can do whatever you want. But like I said, it doesn't matter what you're using as long as you know exactly what are the few tools that are going to accomplish your purpose, accomplish your goals. So if you have a tech stack for your work or for your business and it absolutely works for you and you don't need much else, stick with that because or if anything, try to find anything that you can remove. It's better to remove than it is to add, ideally. So, in a way to keep things as simple as possible. You don't need all these tech stacks to even make 6 or 7 figures, anything like that. Um, just keep things simple and stop searching for the best, just what you're most confident using. Another thing too is to use the least amount of tabs possible to produce good work. So we weren't meant to multitask or context switch or anything. With the internet, our average attention span has dramatically decreased, if you've probably noticed that. And thinking that you need so many different tabs to conduct research, check email, write content, watch an educational YouTube video like this one is taking up hours of your time. Uh, it's your ability to be able to focus on the task at hand is greatly hindered when you're always task switching and context switching. So look at the priority tasks that you've written down. Like we go back to step three and determine the minimum viable tasks necessary to accomplish it, assuming you're doing work online, things like that. So likely no more than 3 tabs. So for right now, I only have like 2 tabs. It's one is directed to my school community, and one is literally this uh, Google Doc. And whenever I do my deep work, every time I'm doing if I'm writing things down, usually I have my Cortex software open if I need to do any deep work and writing. If I do any research, I'm looking at one source at a time. And then if I get whatever I needed from that source, I will close that tab down and then open anything else because I don't want to like consume from so many different sources at a time because like I said, we weren't meant to be context switching for so long, and that's another problem with the consumption habit that we talk about in step one. We're so used to doing this for hours in a day. We're just using our thumbs and using our eyes. We've almost reduced ourselves to a thumb and an eye when we're scrolling like this, and that trains our brain to multitask. Right? We can't multitask. So we're always context switching. When we're training our brain to do that, our ability to focus on things that actually matter is greatly hindered, and we're training our brain to continue with that habit, to continue with that behavior. So we need to start cutting that off and really consider our attention, and our attention is probably the most valuable asset we can have. Of course, we have time. Time is a valuable thing as well, but our attention within our time is probably even more so valuable because there's only so much attention we could give in a certain amount of time, right? So that's something to also keep in mind. So hopefully this does help you out. That's my methodologies for reducing overwhelm in my business and my work. So if this helped you out with any of your situations, be sure to like and subscribe if you want to check more content like this. Send a comment if this helped you out, share with a friend. I will see you all next time. Semper Fi.